There you go. All right. All right, we're gonna be back. Begin our budget workshop. It's on the agenda. We did yesterday ask about the appraisal district budget and it being presented. So we're gonna go ahead and have excuse me. Mr. McKibben come in and go ahead and present that to us. Go ahead, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing? Good to see y'all again. I haven't been here in a couple of years, but
Been
always good to be back.
Come on back.
We have a budget this year of $2,772,840. It has a 6.8%, 86% increase. We have a few items. I don't know if y'all received, all of y'all have a copy of the budget, but we try to set it up in a way where it has anything that increased dramatically or decreased. We usually kind of highlight those for you. It has a supporting scheduling in it that tells what each line item covers. Basically, the highlights of the increases this year was there was some legislation that was passed this last session that requires homesteads to be reviewed every 5 years. So appraisal districts have to notify property owners that have a homestead and get them to verify it. A lot of districts have been outsourcing. We're trying to do it in-house to save money. There was new legislation that was passed for online forms we have to put on our website. So that cost programming and additional. There's some software. It's called Maddox software. It enhances the streamline. It's going to streamline work man hours and efficiency. It's used in appraisals. Also during protests where we can do like comparisons and stuff. We have new legislation that requires additional staff training. We had to replace 3 office computers. Our insurance is expected to increase again. We do our budget kind of like, we're doing our budget now, but we don't know what insurance rates are going to do. Our fiscal year starts in January. So we can't get insurance rates until we're within 60 days out. So after November 1st is when we can get insurance rates. So we have to kind of estimate, and it's been going up each year. So we kind of look at the historic increases of it and kind of estimate that the same. And then we have an AC unit that's acting up. It's one of the original units we had back from 2002. Kind of hoping it lasts the rest of this year and gets into next year. But that's kind of the main increases in our budget. Legislature adds more on to us, but don't tell us how to fund it. So
And what was the total? What was the total budget?
it's $2,772,840. It's a 6.8% increase, which is $178,070 increase over last year's. We typically keep a streamlined budget. We don't have any annual fluff or anything like that in it. Any money that we have left over, we return to the entities. Actually, a few years back, we sent one of the superintendents called and was asking, hey, what's this check for? I was like, well, that's some leftover money we had. And he was real surprised. He said, if he has it in the budget, he's going to spend it. We don't operate that way. If we have money left over, we kind of try to be as conservative as we can. So.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is our portion of that? How much will we be billed out of that? 2.7.
Well, there's an allocation schedule that was sent to you, but it's probably going to change some. This shows the county's difference was 7,819 for the county, and then 1,159 in the lateral road fund. But
So
with
add that to the current.
Yes,
per quarter or per year?
that's per year.
So 7,819 for the county and the lateral road is how much?
So 1,159.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't have a copy.
So it's about $9,000 total.
Okay,
But now that's probably going to change because these are having to go off the 2024 levies because the tax rates haven't been set for 2025 yet. So this is an estimate, and the final is calculated once 2025 levies are set, when all the taxing entities have adopted their tax rates. Now there's a constitutional amendment, I'm sure y'all have heard about, where they're talking about increasing the person's homestead exemption from 100,000 to 140, and the over 65 from 10,000 up to 60,000 through the school districts. Y'all's optional stays the same, but it affects the school districts, which means it's going to lower their taxable value, which might shift some of this over to non-school districts, the cities and
Was it effective this tax year or?
it's effective this tax year, yes, sir.
So you mean if it goes in November, is approved, they've got to get it done lined up for people pay their taxes?
Yes, sir. They did this back in the last session. They went from 40,000 up to 100,000. We just certified the values at the 100,000 and it passed. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's like in the 90%. Everybody voted to, get a tax cut. So we'll certify them with 140,000 to all the schools this year again. And if it doesn't pass, we have to go in and supplement. If we didn't certify with 140 and it passes, then we'd have to go in and supplement anyway. So we're pretty confident it's probably going to pass. I think y'all's taxable value this year is the net taxable after the freeze adjusted, it's going up, I think, around 470 million. I think y'all were 4 point. Looked at it. I looked at it before I left, but the drive over, I already forgot it. I think it was 4.32 billion taxable last year, and it's up to 4.8 this year.
All right, any questions?
Many.
Yeah.
So we'll have this paper.
So what I'd like to do is the next commissioner's court, I'll have his budget and on the agenda for observer court.
Okay.
See the copy of it, and I believe it was emailed to me. It was emailed to the old judge's email address, hence the reason we haven't
Okay.
dug it out. We'll get it
Okay.
Done.
Make sure we have your
Yes, sir.
address.
And I believe Miss Christie was communicating this for
Okay.
where the email came from. So,
Okay.
but we'll streamline our communication
Okay.
process. That's been a bumpy road for everything so far.
Right.
Is getting on those communication now.
That's a little
Because
transition.
it switches, yeah.
So, yeah, we can talk about that. I have a couple of questions about fiscal year one.
Okay.
How that
Yeah,
impacts.
it does make it a little difficult with their fiscal year being completely different from our fiscal year.
Is that statutory?
Couldn't tell you.
I'm not sure if it was statutory. I think all appraisal districts are January when they were formed back in the early 80s. So I don't know that any appraisal district has one that's not a January to December fiscal year.
It makes sense from tax. people. It sure does throw us off
Right.
and delay everything on our budget.
Yeah.
We can't really line up until.
Yeah.
We get that.
Yeah, we run across some of that same stuff. Life insurance, for example, having to adopt it now. Don't know what it's gonna do to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. sir.
Yeah, appreciate y'all listening to me. If you have any other questions, anytime, feel free to, give me a
Thank
call.
you.
All right.
Like
Have a nice day.
I see.
Judge Klein. Just Peace Precinct one, reminder.
Good morning, gentlemen. That time of year. All right. So as all you know, I know we have quite a few people listening in online. My name is Trey Jeton. I'm the Justice of the Peace of Precinct 1 here in Hill County. Before I dive into the proposal, I'd like to just speak on a few duties of the Justice of the Peace. I know there's sometimes this confusion and misunderstanding as to what a JP actually does. I do know a lot of people sometimes think we're somehow law enforcement, and that's not true at all. We're actually a trial court. And so we don't have any sort of law enforcement function at all. Some of the things that we do here in our court are going to be Class C criminal offenses. We have original jurisdiction over those. That means it has to come to us before it can go anywhere else. Some other things we do have jurisdiction over are civil damages up to 20,000. We listen to eviction cases. We have debt claims. We also do death inquests. So we have to go out and figure out how it is or the cause of death of somebody who wasn't under the care of a physician. We also have administrative hearings such as occupational license hearings as well as licensed carry. So we do have a broad spectrum of things that we have jurisdiction over and that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So I would like to go over my proposal that kind of highlights a lot of those responsibilities that we carry, as well as how we're responsibly using the taxpayers' money and giving them the service that they deserve. The first thing I want to dive into are going to be our salaries. I'm not asking anything different for myself. As far as my court clerk position, Caitlin's worked for me for 2 years now, I think. She's an absolute rock star. She handles she's come in as a brand new clerk, handles everything that I've asked her to handle. There's no challenge she hasn't met. She learns very quickly. And in my office, I mandate 16 hours a year they have to do for continuing education. And she is always, without me having to prompt her to do it, always done. In fact, she's gone out and she's gone above and beyond what I've asked her to do. And she's obtained her civil clerk's license through our training organization. And that simply means that our training organization, who oversees the judges and the clerks at the JP level, have come out and said she has satisfied the requirements for us. That shows that she has an in-depth knowledge in this certain area. She's currently working on her criminal clerk's license that I imagine she'll have before the end of this year. And then next year, she's told me she's going to get her master clerk's license. So she's, like I said, just been an absolute rock star for me in the office. That being said, there's only so much you can do in an 8-hour day. No matter how good she is, there's only so much work that an outstanding employee like her can do. And the first thing I want to touch on is the increase in caseload that I've seen. Last year we were up significantly. I didn't pull those numbers, but this year, and these numbers were pulled yesterday, I'm seeing an increase in caseload in my court specifically by 20%. And that shouldn't come to a shock to anybody. As a small taste of what you guys had to sign for new development coming into the county. Hill County is a very popular place for people to pour into right now. We're sandwiched between Waco and DFW. Those people still want those city jobs sometimes, but then they want to come home and have a slice of land to themselves. Well, virtue of our location, they like to pick Hill County. And when you have that amount of people coming into Hill County, you're going to have a demand for higher public services such as the JP Court. So that is part of the reason why I'm also asking for an additional employee. I asked last year because of the caseload increases we're seeing. Again, I saw a 20% jump from last year's high number, as well as I've now taken over the magistration duties for Hill County. So I set bonds, emergency protective orders, bond conditions, all those things. And happy to do it. I love that part of the job, but it was something that I didn't anticipate was the back end of all that. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into that, and that does fall on my clerk. And I'm sure Judge Brassel can tell you, those responsibilities aren't just, go to the jail, look at PC affidavit, set a bond, maybe a protective order or something and leave. No, there's a waterfall of paperwork, especially when you start getting into protective orders and bond conditions that need to be created, entered, and kept. So if Caitlin is working on those kinds of things, we still have that 20% more cases we got to deal with over here. Now she can't do it because she's doing the magistration. I think it's imperative because my office really does need a second person to come in and alleviate some of that burden that we have with the caseload. Now, I do want this to benefit the county as a whole. So I do propose that if you could give me this additional clerk, that it be with the understanding that yes, they report to the JP1 clerk or JP1 court, and that I'll sign their timesheet and it comes out of my budget. But with the understanding that any of the other JP courts can call at any time they need. My clerk went on vacation, my clerk is sick, family emergency, whatever it is. If they have a hole, they have a need, that second position will be shared among the courts and be able to alleviate any issue that another JP court has. I think that would be the best bang for the buck for the taxpayer, and I think it would help out all 4 courts and not just mine. So that's why you're gonna see, I have asked for a second position. Now, as far as the salary goes, this is a little bit of wishful thinking on my end. I'm really hoping I can get some rock star, super qualified person to come in. Odds are that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna have to train someone fresh and new. Not a problem. Done that twice now. But I am asking for a court clerk 2 salary in case I do end up getting lucky and getting someone qualified. I'd be able to compensate them for what they're worth. Now, if that doesn't happen, the very next commissioner's court, if I hired a clerk 1, the very next commissioner's court, I will come back, notify you guys and let you know that, hey, that money needs to be returned because it didn't get used. So that'll cover that part. Training and mileage. I'm not asking for anything new because I think we've foreseen enough in the past that we have enough money to cover this year. So I'm not going to ask for any increase there.
So you don't need an increase for your new hire for training?
No, it shouldn't be this year. There's a lot of things that are going online, and I encourage my employees to do that, is to train online as much as we can. Even if that's not an option, I think we're going to have enough there that it's going to cover the mileage and the training that we would see an increase for a second person. So, you'll see an increase in the magistration stipend. For me, the only reason that is because I took over magistration January 1. So it was the middle of the budget cycle. So I got some of that magistration money, and JP2, who did it up to January 1, had the rest of it. And all I'm asking is, since I'm doing it full time, the money that was in JP2 just get moved over to my budget. That way I have the full stipend for this upcoming year. Let's see. Also, I did touch on how Caitlin does the magistration back end. That's a duty specific only to her. There is no other court clerk in this county that does that duty. Now, that also entails she has to get special training because she is now dealing with criminal backgrounds. You have to be specially certified to do that. Not anyone can just look at those. Also, you have to have the special knowledge on how to handle that paperwork and generate those kinds of documents. So those are special requirements and duties that she has to do that I think it's only fair that we compensate her for doing it. Because like I said, no other clerk in the county does it, only her. So I'm asking the court, give her a stipend of $3,500 to compensate her for not only the extra time, but all the specialized knowledge she has to have to be able to perform those functions. When it comes down to the Social Security, retirement, and all that, I'm going to defer to Susan, the judge, because I wasn't sure what to put there. So whatever your judgment is on that. Dues and memberships, or excuse me, bonds and insurance. We did have an email go out about an increase that we're expecting in bonds. The number that I had submitted earlier was incorrect. I failed to compensate for that. It is going to be reflective of if you grant that second position plus the increase. I think the new number should be about 275. Again, I'm going to defer to whatever Susan, we find out what the final number is on our bonds, but I believe it'll be around somewhere around 275. So I am asking for an increase there. Now, I'm going to take a break from increase for a second. I actually want to give you back money. In my telephone line item, it's high from last year. We moved from a regular phone line to voiceover. It was a whole new carrier. We went from, I forgot who we had, but then we moved to AT&T. We weren't sure what it was going to be. So we had budgeted for 28. I would like to give 800 back to you and drop it down to 2,000. I think that's gonna be more than enough. And those monies can be used elsewhere as needed. But I would like to point that out. And then also I'd like to touch on the JP Technology Equipment Fund. Since I've been in office, we've never actually received any money in that line item. It's my understanding through the state that that money is supposed to go to the court and it'd be used at the discretion of the presiding judge. So I would ask this commission to please, whatever we have to do to get that money back dispersed to all 4 JP courts. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Judge. I would like to see that line item be fixed. That way we can use those as necessary.
Let me interrupt if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, by law, the JP Tech Fund and JP Security Fund are not to be touched by anybody but the JPs. Traditionally, they have been transferred to other places, without permission from the city folks. I think it would be a wise conversation to have with those judges as to where those funds are gonna go. As far as, for instance, the justice of peace that's in the courthouse, if he is okay with transferring his IT and his security fund out because he's in the courthouse utilizing those things, maybe so. That might be a good conversation. But as far as the guys that are outlying, we're not providing them security. And and now there may be an argument as to IT. Would you send IT to them? But again, those funds by law, now there is no teeth in the law. But by law, those funds are designated. Yes, ma'am.
Although they were under discretion of the commissioners court.
I don't believe so.
Not the way I read it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'll look at that again, but we have been transferring money every year to the general fund for use of the Odyssey system,
Yeah.
all the support and programs that we have, we've been utilizing the fund. I hope not improperly, but to
Sure, and
that was how they had been used in the past, so.
And I'm not alleging that. I would just at least like to have a conversation about it since it really is supposed to go to the JP.
Well-
And if it's best used where we still give it to the general fund because there is Odyssey and everything else we have to maintenance, more than happy to do that. I would just like to have a conversation.
Yes.
Is that a percentage or is that a flat rate? How is that
Each citation that is paid, a portion of that citation goes to each one of these funds.
So it's percentage.
Correct. And so, but I don't know what's percentage, it's a dollar amount for each
It used to
citation.
be $4 or.
You can see it.
We're
on
not
our
talking
citation.
about an astronomical
I got you.
amount of money.
Okay,
So it may not even. I don't know if it's even worth, but I do think just to be doing things the correct way, we should. Yeah, maybe pull it down and make sure that we are.
But that'll more or less cover what the foreseeable needs for the upcoming budget year for my office. One thing I would like to advocate for that does directly relate to precinct 1 is the roof on precinct 1 building, specifically my building. I know the commissioners out there in a separate building. We've noticed hail damage, some holes and things in the roof where we've had to contend with leaks coming through the ceiling and in various places. There are some offices in there that have a hard ceiling, not a drop ceiling with tiles. Just looking at all the other leaks that are up there, I think there's probably some that aren't being seen just because of that hard ceiling. The water hasn't made its way through. So in your considerations for this upcoming year, I would ask that you allocate some funds. That way we can address some of the leaks that are in that roof. That way they can be fixed and we can move on from it.
Insurance bills?
Yeah, insurance.
I sent that, I sent it to Shane, but I didn't think to send it to you, I'll send the estimate. And what they did at the jail, someone came in and made temporary repairs.
Yeah.
For us, is that needed?
I think we're looking at those options right now. I just wanted to bring it up, just to keep it on everything. But I do believe we're pursuing.
We do have some insurance for that roof, but also, as I mentioned yesterday, the company that I contacted about monitoring our roofs has also gone and looked at it, given us a bid on a repair option. Obviously, they also gave us a replace option. I'm looking more towards the repair option.
Shocking.
Yeah, and it is repairing the roof over the offices, not over the
Shop.
shop. So.
But other than that, I'm open to any questions you might have.
Question for the judge?
All right, well, I appreciate the time. and
Don't drive the
opportunity.
belly dump in your spare time.
I can come drive the belly down for you, Commissioner.
No, he's right across the parking lot.
Yeah, but he knows my words.
All right, Judge Haynes. JP number 2.
For the record, I'm Mark Hammonds. I was recently appointed JP2 back in January. I did make a submission to the judge for you guys regarding the budget. Certainly, this being the first budget workshop that I've been a part of in Hill County, try to be fiscally responsible and all those things. I don't have anything to add or change a whole lot. I'll go over a couple of those briefly. I did not submit any salary changes, as you guys are already engaged in those conversations through your survey and all those things.
So you're not taking your salary from 66 to 0?
No, sir. I'll leave it to you guys. You guys are already engaged in that. I would support any change that you guys see fit, where if it matches the size and scope, just like what I added in there, the size and scope of the work compared to other counties, obviously being fiscally responsible with our tax base. The only changes that I submitted prior to my appointment, Judge Brazel submitted an increase in, I think, supplies and one of the other line items in preparation for what occurred. So in doing a changeover of judges, so to speak, there's some added cost that comes with that. That's changing names of mail outs and, courtesy cards. You change the name on everything that the office has. So there's some incurred costs with that. So appropriately, since he foresaw that and you guys approved it, I went to a small decrease, about $1,500. Appropriately, we got those things taken care of and incoming. I don't foresee any changes, hopefully. But again, I'm into this 6 months, so something may be over the horizon I've never seen before. But I do try to lean on the current judges and obviously Judge Brazel.
You did not really increase them a whole lot.
No, sir. No, the only increases, the next line item with the postage, and everybody knows postage is going up. Our postage usage, is typically more. I think there's only one other office in the county that probably does more postage than we do, just by sheer volume. So that's kind of hard to calculate, but I just kind of only added about $50 to that. Just looking at, also submitted what we're spending currently. I don't know if you guys have that, but it just kind of tells you where we're at. We keep a track of what we're spending versus what we're supposed to spend. And so, we're anticipating, obviously, with the new changes, it going up just a little bit. So again, that's hard to calculate because it's based on what business comes through the office. And so, my clerks are really good at kind of staying on top of it and understanding that. So we did discuss that increase. If we undershot it a little bit, there's a miscellaneous fund that I'm asking to stay the same. We haven't touched that in years past. I don't think Judge Brazel ever did, but I think it's only about a $250 line item, but it should cover, any minimal overage or underage. And of course, we don't anticipate a large one. But also in the machine and equipment rental, just inflation on our copy machine that we pay by the copy for. Just to, kind of anticipating a little bit of a change there. The other decrease, I believe, was in was training. I think Judge Brazel had a training and mileage reimbursement. He saw an increase in that and foresaw the training that comes with the appointment of a new judge. Also, I'm not asking for much of a change in that or no change in some of that because when he left, he also took one of the clerks, so I had to hire a new clerk. So in addition to my to my training, I'm now obviously we're on the hook for kind of making sure our clerks stay trained. And as Judge Jaton was mentioning, we try to make sure our employees are trained well. It equates to better service to our constituents and obviously, a better degree of service overall in the office. I kind of wanted to leave that the same. So due to the timing of the appointment in January, we kind of missed some of the initial training for me personally. So we went at it from the back end. So I've taken, 2 phases of the initial judge training, that were secondary. So I've got to go back and take the first in this next fiscal year. So it overlaps a little bit. So that's why there's not a change there. But overall, that's about it. I think the overall operating change. I think there was a mistype. I think it's about $1,200. I think your sheet probably says 1,400, but my math didn't math whenever it was typing. So, but overall operating, I came down because you guys, foresaw what happened this year, the extra training, changing over. So pretty simple.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Question?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Holmes?
Good morning.
Good.
Judge Brazel asked me to explain one thing to y'all with regard to my salary, and that will also apply to Judge Crane's salary, and then also to Mr. Pratt and Judge Lewis's salaries. Senate Bill 293 was, I believe, literally the last piece of legislation that the 89th legislature acted on before it adjourned. It addressed judicial pay, which Mr. Pratt and I, our salaries are tied to judicial pay. The state raised what they refer to as the benchmark salary of a district judge from $140,000 to $175,000 a year. So Judge Lewis will step into a nice raise right as he begins his career as a district judge. And then our salaries we have 4-year incremental increases based on our years of service. And so all 4 of us will be receiving a pretty nice raise. Half of my salary is paid by the county, half is paid by the state. Really the county's portion of my salary increase is not that much. Most of that money is coming from the state. It should be the same with Judge Crane as well. And then of course the state pays all of Judge Lewis's and Mark Pratt's salaries, except for, I believe y'all give Mr. Pratt $18,000 a year as a county supplement. So anyway, that is the difference in my salary. In terms of my staff wages, I have reflected a 3% increase in my requested budget. The operational cost, for the first time in a long time, I'm requesting an increase in my training and mileage budget. As y'all know, I serve on the board of TDCAA. Most of the trainings that Mickey and I attend are through TDCAA, and we went up from on conference registration costs from $350 to $500 because we had not increased those in years, and the cost of the hotels and the food and beverage services just gone through the roof, so. We felt necessary to increase those, so we will fill those in my office. If you flip over to the second page, I know we have to kind of explain this to you every year, but the excess salary line item, as I discussed, the state they send the county an amount of money that reflects half of my salary. Well, as the county portion of my salary grows, if the state funds are less than 50%, those pour over into this excess salary line item. And what the law says is I can only spend those for expenses of my office. I can't increase my own salary on those. Those have historically been used to supplement salary of the assistant county attorney. And I believe when Mr. Pratt was still county attorney, he used it to supplement the wages of his staff. We haven't done that. I was giving Mickey, I think $3,600 a year out of that fund. But since SB 22 was passed in the last legislature, the 88th legislature, I have replaced that with the state SB 22 funds. And so that's the next budget, is the SB 22 budget. Those funds, the state sends us for a county our size. Mr. Pratt and I each get $175,000 from the state. We returned, how much of that money did we return to the state? Quite a bit.
Last year, the actual was 25,594, so you're gonna end up sending back close to 50,000.
Right, and of course, that was a partial budget year. As you know, one full-time member of my staff, Amanda Anderson, that we added, she's paid entirely out of SB 22 funds, so she's at no cost to the county. And then Michaela Alvarado receives salary supplement with SB 22 funds, as well as Katie Cole, the crime victims coordinator. And I have reflected an increase on Ms. Cole's salary with SB 22 funds. I haven't talked with Mr. Pratt about whether he was going to give his assistant DAs any additional money out of SB 22. I would like to bump Mickey up some more with those funds rather than return them to the state. But I also am mindful that probably can't pay Mickey more than a felony prosecutor. So even though she has duties that they don't have, but we're trying to keep that fairly even across the board, so it's fair to everybody. I think that's all I've got. Any questions?
Yeah, David, how far in advance do you think you're gonna need another attorney? Because if Hill County grows, all that stuff.
Well, okay, so and this is it's a good question. I'd had this conversation with Judge Lewis going back several years, and then I brought it up with Judge Brazel the other day. The one huge variable in that to me is we have regional counsel to cover our CPS dockets. We've had it for years. It's obviously a luxury for us in the county. And so the state sends an attorney out of Austin to cover Hill County's CPS cases. The there is a real possibility that we will lose that coverage. And, I'd mentioned to Judge Lewis a number of years ago that if we lose that coverage, I would absolutely need another attorney in the office, because it is. I wouldn't say that is a 100% full-time job, but it's close to adequately cover the CPS cases.
But I know you have more and more things that are coming up, your drug court.
They are, and there are some things that if I had a third attorney, that I would like to accomplish, like environmental enforcement. I don't know. I don't think I can justify a third one right now, but I'm glad you asked the question because I do see it coming in the next several years, particularly if the state changes the CPS bid.
Well, the federal government paid back a lot of states. I figured that eventually will get down to us too.
And boy, we do not get much support from the state on things like environmental. Actually, we get none. Matter of fact, I'll tell y'all a story. I had a case set for a trial on an environmental case, on a septic system case a couple of years ago. And I had subpoenaed a guy named Tim Blackman who's in Waco with TCEQ to come testify. And that went all the way up the chain in the legal department of TCEQ, and they contacted the Attorney General's office to file a motion to quash my subpoena because they did not want to send a member of their staff to come support us in the trial. So you can probably guess what my opinion is of TCEQ.
Like all of us.
Alright, any other questions? Alright.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank y'all.
Going to go ahead, Brad, Ms. Susan?
Okay.
Okay,
Whoever y'all like, so.
come on. Let's do it. All right,
Morning.
doing well?
Yeah, doing just fine. We got a suppression hearing going upstairs with Matt up there dealing with it right now. All right, so only made a couple of changes in my budget. Only one that affects the bottom line, and that had to do with the county supplement. The legislature has changed the law beginning this next, I guess it goes into effect in September, but I realize the budget doesn't go into effect till October. For the first time where they've changed that cap. And so I'm asking if you feel I earned it, y'all have sufficient funds to move it to the new amount that they've set. Other than that, I visited with Susan. She told me that the bonds and insurance part was going up and asked that I increase that. I did. By $1,658. However, then I took that money out of some other accounts that I had, so it's actually a net zero in my budget. I had a couple line items where it didn't appear that I was going to spend it all. I had one other I needed to increase, which was machine and equipment rental, because because of color copies, we have to pay for those individually, and I need those for my trials. And so I increased it by 300, but I also took that out of a different line item. So other than the supplement, it was the same as what it was last year. But I'd be more than happy to answer any questions y'all have about anything.
Question?
How are your cases can get more? Getting more?
Well, yeah, we get a lot of cases, as you know, and if somebody wanted to fish out on the interstate, I suppose you get an unlimited number of cases. But we've been getting around 500 felony cases a year, and that seems to be holding steady. We have times that it increases, over that, and sometimes that are a little bit slower, but it's not really like a seasonal cycle where you can predict it. It just, they come when they do. But yeah, we've been staying very busy.
Are you still giving or getting longer sentences and in other counties?
Well, the last two trials that I personally did was last month. Somebody got a life sentence, and then I also did one in April where they got 60 years. So we're getting some large sentences. We've got some good jurors, as y'all know. We're fortunate to live here amongst the folks that we do, and they just simply aren't going to put up with that type of crime. And they seem to agree with me and my philosophy on handling those. And most of the attorneys are well aware of how I handle things here. And so as the years have gone by, it's been easier and easier to get a lot of those resolved short of a trial, because they know what that results in. And yeah, so we've been able to meet it, but every now and again, you're just going to have defendants that want to give it a try, or defense attorneys that want to give it a try.
Was it last year you showed us, or the year before, how harsher Hill County was than some of the other counties?
I think so. I think I got the records from the Office of Court Administration, which maintains those records statewide, and somebody had a question regarding that, so I pulled that together because they have it for every county, and it shows what that is.
Which I think is very good.
Yeah, I do as well. I don't do that certainly by any means to be unfair. My job is to see that justice is done. And that's what I think happens here. Perhaps not in some other places, and I can't speak for them. Maybe it's different administrations, whether it be prosecution, law enforcement, or the juries that they have, or the judges that they have that are different. But that's not the way that we conduct business here.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate the support y'all have always given my office, and that you have for law enforcement and for the courts as well. And I feel like y'all have always funded us sufficiently to allow us to do our jobs, that we've all been on the same page.
Appreciate your efforts.
I appreciate y'all. Take care.
Yes. I've got to mention one thing about my budget. And I brought this to Shane's office yesterday. I'm asking for $8,500 for our iCrime Fighter cloud-based software. That is the software we're using to manage our video evidence, and we push that out to the defense attorneys via a link. And so we don't have to copy flash drives or DVDs, things like that. So that's saves a little money on that, but the defense attorneys seem to like it, and we would like to continue to use it. It is unlimited storage, and the amount of digital evidence that prosecutors' offices are handling these days is astronomical, and there's no limit on this software to how much we can upload into their cloud. So,
And if you look behind his spreadsheet, there's a sheet that reflects that. It's to me the third page. No. All right.
I recently got something from your office regarding that. In case it came to y'all as a misdemeanor, but for me to handle as a felony. And so they came over and got a link from me initially where I could log in and use it. As that goes by, we may explore it. In some ways, I'm still just old school, just like to see me here with paper, and I still have my paper files, and I'll have my tabs on them as I organize things for jury trial and such, and go through, and we'll do that. But we do scan every single thing in, and we provide all of our discovery to the defense attorneys in electronically. Just I want a paper copy that I'm working with and can write on and do everything with. And with the videos, we've been burning copies. We do receive some electronically, and as this goes on with his and we develop it, I may work with my staff and incorporate that. If so, I expect, however, that because I've got an asset forfeiture fund, which the county attorneys doesn't have, is that I would just be able to come and ask that be funded if I ever do go that route out of those funds that I already have. I wouldn't need any additional funds. But we may move that way. But David's been kind of on the forefront on some of that.
State doesn't fund anything.
No,
Evidence, approval, transmission.
no, no, they do not.
All of this.
One significant difference though between the DA's office and the county attorney's office is retention schedules, and that most of his cases are forever. And so makes you a little nervous to have a contract with a cloud software company that may sell or go out of business or whatever, and
You have a requirement to maintain it forever.
mine is 5 years, so. If we had to pull, if they notified us that they were shut down and had to pull that stuff off. Maybe it's doable. For the DA's office, it'd be impossible.
And some of mine, I have many different agencies working, so just hours and hours and hours of video just on a single case. So there is a tremendous amount of video, and he's right. We have seen, despite promises, I know the sheriff's department has had an issue with that, with changing service providers, and then suddenly some of the stuff is gone when they've updated, and you have periods of time that just everything is then gone forever, and I can't afford to do that. Some of these folks that have got put away, they can file appeals, and I deal with plenty of appeals. I got many going right now. And folks file writs of habeas corpus, and they may have been in prison 10, 20 years. And when things come up, we potentially need it, not to mention required to keep some of that stuff.
Sure.
Some other things, even our law enforcement has to keep forever, stuff that might have, say, DNA evidence on.
One significant development we've had in the last year plus, was a decision, called the Heath opinion, Heath versus State, where, the Court of Criminal Appeals decided that, the Michael Morton Act in 3914 Code of Criminal Procedure requires us to provide everything to the defense. Well, the law enforcement agencies are supposed to turn everything over to us, and they don't always. And so what the Court of Criminal Appeals decided under Keith is, well, prosecutors, you have a duty to know everything that's out there. Basically, we're supposed to be
On the mission.
yes. And so I now have a member of my staff who pretty much all she does is watches videos all day long, every day, to see if, and we catch it all the time. Oh, this was a sheriff's office case, the DPS was there. They showed up at the scene. Well, they're rolling body cams and they've got a car, and maybe they should have written a supplement that they didn't write. But so then we have to go
Request it.
we have to go say, okay, DPS, we need your video as well, because that's part of it.
Wow.
Yeah, if anybody with the state has something, which includes CPS or, Waco PD or whoever it might be that's shown up or been involved in a scene, has anything, we're just presumed to know that we have it. Even if, say, our deputy didn't put, or a police officer didn't put in their report that they had a video or had some other piece of evidence, but they in their head know that we do, or they do have it even, that we're required to have turned that over. And so, yes, it does take a lot of time, and with the amount of videos that we have, well, I can't pay my staff to work 24/7, because you would have to watch videos all night and all day to have seen every single one, but I have to go through the court, try to make all the reasonable inferences I can and hunt down whatever else I can and give it to them. That is the way that works in Texas. I'm required to give them every statement, every video, every report. That's not how it was for my first 20 years as a prosecutor, but that's sure enough how it is now. And we have to give it to them as soon as practical after we get it. But with the defense, they still don't have to give us anything, not even a list of their witnesses, much less any statements or pictures or videos they have. We just have to shoot from the hip. It's just the way that it is. And I don't see that changing. I was hoping.
Trying to get the Heath issue fixed in the legislature. and it failed. But we even proposed, like Mark's talking about, the reciprocal discovery where the defense has to give us, their witnesses and things like that, but that's a big fight on the defense side.
So I try doing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're caught up to schedule now, so I'm gonna kick back to the schedule and go with the Skilling, Deb Skilling. Okay. How are you, man?
Good morning. I don't think we have too much, just a few changes. The first thing is, my clerk, Karen, she was able to complete her certification, so I think that will allow her to move up to the next level. I think we have it listed as court coordinator 2. I'm pretty sure, and I believe she turned in her certificate already.
Got that?
And then, the cell phone reimbursement, I wanted to ask about that. I turned in my county phone a while back, so I've just been using my personal one. That's my fault that I haven't requested that. I always forget about it, so. And then the only other increase I think we're gonna have is just a little bit, for just in case for training and mileage. If I had been able to attend all my trainings this year, then I would have been just a little bit over. So, I probably won't use all of that, but just to have it there just in case I don't have to do an amendment, for the upcoming year. Utilities, I think everybody's are going up, so there's that. Our postage is kind of staying the same. Thankfully, my clerk likes to email and do things electronically, whereas I do not, so that's gonna stay the same. The phone, office rent, Mr. Moss hasn't asked for anything to increase, so that's all staying the same. And that is all I have, I believe.
Any questions we did?
Okay. Just also, we are still, for security reasons, we've had a couple of incidences over the past several months. If we can find something comparable at a comparable price to move us back towards Hubbard, that way we're not in the middle of nowhere. I know we had talked about the Penelope thing, and while that is great to have something new, but that still leaves us just kind of sitting ducks in the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of hard to, when Larry and Kyle are over here most of the day, to get them back to where we are. It takes quite a while, and we've been in some couple of situations where we needed somebody immediately and weren't able to do that. So nothing that we need to decide today, just kind of want to put that out there that we would like to get closer to civilization if we could, especially our bank is there, post office, the one in Malone closes at 11 every day. So there's no bank. We're having to drive all the way back into town to make our deposits, which makes my clerk have to leave early 2 or 3 days a week to get there before the bank closes, to make that deposit and be able to get the deposit slip to send back to Rachel and everybody. So just keep that on your radar. And if we find something that's comparable, obviously at a comparable price, then we would like to do that. So.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank y'all.
Judge Jones? You ready? All right, Judge.
How you doing? I see everybody. On mine's pretty simple. What do you think? I was asking for a little bit of increase on electricity. I recently had a long-term 4-year contract that expired and new, and I was a little surprised with the increase in the electric stuff, as is everything. And but I can work with that if it's not acceptable. The other thing that is for the last 14 years, we've been getting the water and sewer for free from the city. I really can't remember exactly what the deal was that the manager at the time told me, but anyway, that was a good thing, but now they're charging, so I need to have a budget line for, I put in there for $100 a month, but it runs about $95 or so. Everything, and two, in the past, I had a business that would share some of the costs, but I shut that down like 3 years ago. And then this year I've done a lot of remodeling and made it look a lot more like a JP office, should, and lobby and everything. So because of that, and mainly because of the taxes and the insurance, I'm asking for a little increase on the rent too, if it's possible. Whatever you all decide. That's all I got.
Any questions for the judge? No?
All right, thanks.
Ms. Cole? Ready?
Hello, good morning. So the budget I had given you, I'm sorry, is the wrong one. I have revised ones for everyone. But it's not that much different. I was notified on Friday that those TDC AA fees had gone up, so for me only asking $50 and extra in my budget, this is the first year that I've ever asked for any money. I'm asking for 550. My supply budget had gone up just a little. I actually reached my budget, which I've never done. And I attribute that to a lot of our victims outcrying more, calling our police departments and our sheriff's department, which I find is a good sign. Yes, that's sad, but I find it that our citizens are trusting our officers a whole lot more to make that call and to have those deputies show up and their willingness to contact me. So I've had to, with the AG's office and how the AG's office likes for me to do things is by paper, a lot of it by paper. I don't like to do that. I like to get their email address and have it in their email account for safety reasons, especially if their spouse or whoever is stalking or tracking them, if it's family violence or whatever the case may be. I like for them to have a secure email where they can resort back to whatever resources I send them. But if I have to send them victim letters and stuff by mail, as the AG's office likes for me to do, that kind of raised my budget. And I think actually I went a little bit over, so I'll have to get with Susan. That's why I'm only asking for $50 extra there. Because I know I can get with Susan and kind of rework, maybe with my postal budget and kind of rework that amount. I keep my postal budget low because I do utilize the email and communicate with my victims in different ways. So my training and travel budget, I did ask for $500 extra because when I did my grant this year, I did not know that they had gone up on the fees for my conferences. So my grant covers my entire salary except what David has allowed to supplement to make me a competitive employee. I, for the last 7 years, have not ever asked for a raise from y'all ever. Typically I come in here and don't ask for anything. And I take pride in that. I am a taxpayer, so I like to know where my money's going as well. But I also have to keep my head above water and feed my 3 children and one who is going to be a senior in high school this year and going to college next year. So, and then I got one in select ball who is traveling the United States this year. So I too need money. But I also am a fighter for the people and the citizens and our children. Our forensic interviews, I had 2 yesterday, one got canceled, but the one in the afternoon broke my heart. So when we talk about our kids and we talk about what people make here in Hill County and how they're suffering, I don't think people know what goes on in their homes. So my job, as little as my little tiny budget is and how thin I stretch it, I make it work. with what little funds I have. So that's why I only asked for $50 in my supplies, because I'm gonna make it work. And if you allow me to have my little extra travel, I will make it work. And if it's not approved, I will make my travel budget work however I need to. I will get with Miss Susan. We will figure it out. Again, everything else is covered by my grant. If we have to amend it, if I'm not able to go to one thing, I will find a free training somewhere else. I have to go to the mandated OAG conference every January that they just now started doing. Due to COVID, they had stopped. They had a lot of turnover, and now they've started it back up, which it's super expensive, and I don't know why they picked the most expensive hotel for us to go to. And you have to valet park. You can't even park yourself, which I think is ridiculous, and it all comes out of the grant. But I have that every year, and then I choose to go to key personnel or annual every year for my, further education. So if I'm not able to go to one, I will find a free training to go to, if that is online or in person. So this is the legit first year I'm ever asking for anything. I hope you take it into consideration, but if it's not in the cards, it is not in the cards, and I will make it work. Any questions or concerns?
Thank you for doing such a great job.
It's a tough one.
I'm sorry I didn't bring these to you yesterday. I know you are very swamped.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Honest, not with your stuff, but rainbow room.
Yes,
And
that's steep, yes.
Right, so. We're trying to figure out that building down there and moving people around.
Yes.
One of the ideas broached was moving the rainbow room somewhere.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea where we can possibly go. Is there any idea? It's slightly off topic, but it will affect our budget one way or another. Either we make modifications to the existing building we have, which that idea has been floated, and I don't hate it.
Yeah.
It could be possible, which is cost money, or we try to find another location, which is still gonna cost money. Either way, it's gonna cost money.
Yes.
Um,
So technically,
Thoughts?
yeah, so technically what was over there, what it was intended for, where the advocacy center is at. It was supposed to have an observation room for the forensics, and then for the MDT to be able to observe, plus counseling rooms, plus a lobby. And then those were transitioned into, we kind of shortened that down so our auditors could be over there, and that's not feasible. And then we have this rainbow room. So that rainbow room, it definitely needs space because we have to be able to provide. To me, it's like, what other buildings do we have, or could we take in that space that's in the middle?
Right. That's been the most.
I mean, because we can
It's
fit
been
it, so nothing happens to the products and clothes that are in there.
Right.
Needs to just be ventilated.
Okay, that's the only idea I've heard that's semi-feasible sort of, which would be basically reducing the size of the lobby that's in the
Yes.
Covington Street annex. Building another wall, moving maybe auditors into that area.
Yes.
Maybe a jury room that we can soundproof for the court, cause
Oh, for
that's
sure.
an issue with the loud trial.
Yes.
And just kind of playing musical chairs there to try to make it more usable for them, make the auditors have a more usable space, so.
Oh yeah, because they're stuck.
Yeah, so, okay, I just asked it here, so,
Yeah, no, they
Yes.
do need a space for sure, though.
all right. Any questions?
Sorry to give this to you today, though. I like organization. I should have pulled punched them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Yeah. All right, Miss Susan? Want to go?
So long.
Oh,
You make it in.
hey, Miss Susan, can I ask you to wait just a second?
Of course.
Zach Davis from AgriLife is out of town and at a conference, and he wanted to come in via Zoom, and I forgot he scheduled it.
Yes, sir.
He's on it then. Mr. Davis, are you on with us? You can unmute your microphone. There he is.
Yes, sir. How are y'all today?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Doing good. I regret that I'm not able to be there in person. I appreciate y'all letting me jump on this Zoom link and present our request. Should be short and sweet. First and foremost, certainly appreciate everything that y'all do for our office and the employee that we have there, as well as treat the agents as full county employees there and so forth. So appreciate that. Our budget is pretty simple in terms of request. Everything is essentially static from last year. The only line item that was increased at all, which I think is probably just a technicality, but it's the county longevity line item, was pretty short for what was budgeted based on Leanne's tenure with the county. And so we bumped that up to be able to accommodate what her longevity pay would be. And other than that, everything else was just static across the board there. Just a lateral move from last year to this year in terms of request.
Okay, that sounds pretty simple.
Yes, sir. We did have, and I don't know if you're doing these internally, Shane, or how you're doing that, but we did have some line items that, or at least one, the department head line item has been on our budget for several years, and we don't necessarily break that one out. And so in terms of additions or deletions, that one could certainly go in that line or in that budget just to clean things up there.
Yes, sir. I believe it looks like it should fall off next year.
Right.
That's on there, yeah, until.
Yes, sir. That was my assumption, but just wanted to throw it out there just in case.
Sounds great, sir. I don't know, just sidebar info, the amount of emergency management that their office has started taking on is very interesting, especially with the most recent emergency that's happened, and how the Ag Extension Office plays into that, since they are now under the Department of Emergency Management, technically. And so they have a whole role, should we have some disaster here, they would also fall in and help with our emergency management division from the ag side, which I found very interesting. I haven't got to sit down very long with Zach. It's usually about 2.5 minutes every time because we're both very busy. But we are going to sit down and kind of get a game plan and probably sit down with the emergency management folks and try to integrate them fully into our emergency management plan going forward. So.
Right. Yeah. And just to add to that, AgriLife is now in charge of what they call ESF 11. And I haven't learned all the acronyms yet, but that encompasses anything ag and natural resource related. So anything livestock related or emerging disease or pest and crops and things of that nature would fall under us. Whereas previously it was under Texas Animal Health Commission. They will remain a support agency in that endeavor, but yeah, we will be the key player in anything ag and natural resource related there. And that could be anything from a cattle hauler flipping a truck right there in the county to a natural disaster. So glad to hear that we can get together, and I've got some plans that have already been drawn up by the vet school at A&M, some emergency sheltering type stuff that we can look through and all. So there's a lot of pieces in place. They've just got to be adopted, and as we move forward through that.
Any questions, Ms. Nix?
On the rental for they having to do anything with the rental of the exhibit building or?
Well, right now, yes, the Ag Extension offices, I've got them in charge of renting the building. In general, we are not renting the building any longer. There were some things left on the calendar from Judge Lewis. We've been cleaning those up and, we didn't want to just cancel, they'd already rented it. So we didn't want to just kick them out and say you can't do it, but we have been slowly canceling those things off. So it'll only be available to the county or schools. We're actually in the process of adopting, we've got the old policy, we're gonna adopt a new policy presented to the court as to what that building's purpose is, what we're gonna allow it to be used for. So, and Zach has been kind of leading the charge on that for me. He's gotten me the information, it's just, we're gonna put together a new updated policy on that building and go from there.
Look forward to seeing.
Yeah, and we did use it for the Texas Task Force guys. They came in and ladies and dogs came and stayed we stayed in it for a week. So it was really great that we have the resource. I just want it to be, when it needs to be used, especially in emergency, it's ready to be used. And it's ready. Well, Mr. Davis, I appreciate it.
You bet. And I guess one final thing that I would mention is we have had a vacancy in the family and community health position. And as I was told here about a week ago or so, we do have applicants for that. And we'll be interviewing for that first part of August. And so we'll probably have somebody on board somewhere around September.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
y'all. All right.
Appreciate you.
All right, Ms. Susan. Yeah.
Slip mine into y'all's books that had your books out earlier. Anyway, I put together our budget. The auditor's office is a resource to all the departments, and the auditor's the chief financial officer of the county. We have general oversight on the books of the records of every office that collects money or is authorized to collect money, and we have to see to the strict enforcement of the laws governing county finances, which includes purchasing and budgeting. The county collections, they're receipted in by the treasurer, but all the JPs and the district clerk, those are reconciled through our office, matching up all the fee codes with their reports, figuring out if we have, items that are out of whack, that need adjustment or need some follow-up, need discussion, so that we can get that money collected and out to the states and to the county. And so those take a good bit of time, and July is the month that we pay it to the comptroller. We get the county clerk's money too, but seems like we don't have to do as much. Y'all somehow is simpler. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I just gave you a synopsis of that. We file all kinds of reports on these fees, grant reimbursements, the indigent defense. Oh my goodness, they're going to add another report every single year, because when you have an attorney voucher, you got to know, is the attorney represent the mother or the father or the child or the guardian or and we have to track all of that, and there's no way to track it in our financial system, so we track it manually, continually paying bills, researching things. We're the fiscal officer for adult and juvenile probation, the insurance pool coordinator, inventory control, budget monitoring. Anyway, because of all those duties, I am requesting some adjustments in pay for the staff. My staff is pretty young, but I have some incredible staff that is working for me. We've picked up on bills. The bill came through from one of the environmentic controls and was signed off on by everybody. And we got it down to our review, and the person tackling that. There wasn't even our county's bill. It had just been gone through the system. Everybody thought we're okay. So, $4,000 we didn't have to pay. And anyway. But anyway, I have some really good people for doing that. Now, the budget's a little bit uncertain because I've told the judge to go ahead and start finding somebody. We want to have a coexistence for a while. But, they're going to have different wants and needs and directions and, we're doing the best we can. We meet with the district judge on August 8th to set our salaries. And this is what I'll present to him. Space for our office is something that'll need to be done. We may do,
That's another cramped, isn't it?
might be. I don't know, as long as Kathy doesn't bring in her dogs and cats, I guess we'll be all right. I'm sharing with Kathy right now. They did bring up, Philip is looking into this, what the online storage is. We need some of that. We have zero storage space, but our grant files and things have to be kept for a minimum period of time. We just this October, we're going to be able to get rid of the 2015 FEMA files until the 2018 FEMA project is put to rest. It's 3 years from that. We can't count. So we have to keep records for a long period of time.
And when is that gonna happen, ma'am?
Well, we had filled out a records request 2 weeks ago. Stuff we've sent them multiple times already, but we sent it again to this Horn, whoever they are.
What a mess.
And we're have another one due out next week, I think, or in the next week. So we're gonna hang on and we're gonna get some money. We might not get every penny we asked them for, but we're gonna. I tell you, that grant, let's see, the disaster was it November 18th or September 18th? And then the period of performance they had starting in February. I said, well, we made some repairs from when that grant started to February. So they were telling me like we had to have a scope modification and all this. And I said, no, the disaster was declared and this is after the disaster and this should be paid. Oh, yeah. So, I don't know if it's new people looking at the records.
They're false out there.
But I hope they'll stay with us. I hope they won't change them before we have to do it all again.
It might will switch hands again. It happens.
And a future consideration, how big is Hill County? What's the population? They say our population is not recorded. In a population of 41,680, we're getting closer to 42,100. The law says we're the purchasing agent if one hasn't been appointed. So I feel like that's something staring at us in the future. Either we're going to have to get a purchasing agent or the auditor's office will have that duty within the next few years. I don't know if we're at 38.
I mean, it depends. The official is 38-ish, but we all know that's not. And if we do, which obviously we don't have another census coming, but real soon. But if we ever get a good one, then it's gonna be
yeah, I think it's gonna be a problem. So that's just, you said to bring forward future things.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what I have on. For the budget page, added, I guess I added $15 to dues and memberships. I did add 1,100 to training and mileage. I think that some of those expenses are going up. They might not be needed, but auditor has to have 40 hours of education, not counting the staff each year. We try to do whatever we can online and for free, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. Bonds and insurance. The auditor is the only one required to be bonded in our office. We don't deal with money. But we can't, right now, the other staff are not bonded in my office. The contract service, I didn't use any this year. I don't know if we'll use it before the end of the year. We have to get a better inventory system. Just keeping up with the inventory on spreadsheets is not working very well. We had a pretty slick little program, and then somehow through the different updates, it was prior to Philip's time, but somehow they lost our program. And then the company went out of business. It was just an Excel access database. I think that could have been used for a while, but anyway, we don't have it now. So we're back down to manual things. That doesn't work so good. But I have some more about that in a moment. Supplies, I think I kept the same for postage, machine equipment rental. I just left everything else the same. So my true increase from this budget is $1,115. Besides the salary, the next page, I was looking at this possible inventory program that would integrate with QuickBooks called Sortly. I'm not sure the price. That $10,500 might be too much. QuickBooks Online is a disaster, but we are going to get access to it to assist us with the tax office. That's what they use for theirs, and we're going to get more involved on that. We probably are going to need a new laptop with the microphone and camera in this budget year. And then the last page is our people didn't really participate in the salary survey, but I'm kind of set them up to fit those categories. So all of the people that work in my office are assistant auditors. And so Shanda, we were going to put as the court coordinator type chief. Everybody has a top person. And then I have Teresa and Daisy as the second level. Some of the JPs are at that level currently. Kathy, I talked to her about probably going part-time. Right now, we started the year with Rachel and I sharing her, and then Rachel wanted to go on and get this other part-time, and Kathy came to us, so we're filling out the rest of this year on working the 30 hours at full-time, but I think we're going to go to part-time as the staff learns more and more. We're needing her less. So we're looking at paying her for 20 hours per week at $28 per hour. Then have the county raise for Miss Trigg. I don't really know when I talk with Justin about it, but we need a senior accountant auditor. I think as a new auditor that comes in, I'm just able to do more because I know what I need to do and how to get it done. And I don't know, that might need to be, we might need to just at that point drop off the part-time and then have an accountant. But we really need a trained accountant. There's really not, except for myself and Kathy. I think Marshall hired an accountant recently to help her. Those are the only true accountants that know how to work with the general ledger and the books and all of that have had training in accounting. We have a lot of people that can do a lot of jobs as instructors. It takes a little more knowledge to pull all that together. So
I think that was purely accidental that Marshall stumbled into that employee. That was not yeah, I know you were something.
Darn it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of counties out there, and there's not a lot of counties that know the mechanics of government. And that's where the trap is.
Right,
We fell into that before.
right.
We need to make sure they don't do that.
Yeah.
Lots of due diligence.
That's on your district, Jeff. He's the one that gets to make that decision.
So, he knows it's important and.
I was about to say, I think if anybody were.
Yeah.
It feels like he's in a good seat to make.
Hey,
the decision. He's got some experience in dealing with that, so.
I guess what did I put here in closing, that we were here to help elected officials reach their goals in a fiscally responsible manner and be of service to Hill County and their citizens. Whatever we can do, we're gonna do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan.
Chair.
You gonna do Mr. Oliver?
Okay, he's on his phone.
Oh, you want that?
I'm sorry, maybe it's up to you all. Been here this long. Yeah, well, let's do Mr. Warren real quick, since he's been waiting. You know, he shouldn't take too long to move around, but let's tell him.
What's a minute?
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How about y'all?
Good.
So, did everyone? You're gonna talk about all that?
Yeah, all day long.
Got way too many pieces.
I don't. This year I'm gonna say something.
Oh.
That's not gonna be that long.
We know.
All right, so I know I sent my stuff in way early. It was a little bit different than everyone else's. But we'll start off with the good things this year, you know, with roughly over $400,000 come back to the county from new claims. I know I put on there asking for a part-time. I was just instructed or informed that part-time is considered different than what I want. But I want to put it in this perspective. I was part-time when I first came on here as a VSO. I think I made $225 a week when I first started as a part-timer. So if you look at that, but let's go back to the car. You gave me a car 2 years ago for $37,000. I only paid $32,000 for it. So I saved $5,000 that year. The next year, the overlay still showed $37,000 that I never used. It shouldn't have been on there. So you had that $42,000. So in the last 2 years, $40-something thousand has been at the county not used. The next thing was there's a miscellaneous line on there for $250. That $250 was put on there years ago to help do some things that were miscellaneous, but apparently miscellaneous doesn't work. So we need to take that line off. There's no reason to have that line on there. And then with this right here is one case that I did last night. I'm still working on it. That's one person. Okay. I come across this 2 times a week. So I'm asking for, you know, another part-time VSO, not a part-time person, a part-time VSO. They're certified. They can do the same thing I do. They'll be even level. What else? I think that's it. I don't ask for a lot. So if y'all want to consider it, that'd be helpful for us. We love it. The reason I'm asking for the part-time is, as everyone knows, that 9/11 has just come up on a big mark, right? So what do you think we're starting to see 20 years later? Does anyone have an idea what you see? What do you see? You see retirement. This is a veteran who was a National Guard reservist in active duty, retired. They're harder to work than an active duty person.
Why is that?
Well, because, I'll use him as an example. He comes here, he works, he gets deployed, right? He does a weekend, he does this. When he does his weekend, if he gets injured, he goes to a personal doctor. If he's on base somewhere, he gets to go there. So everything that you have to compile for a veteran who's National Guard Reserve is 10 times harder to find their stuff. And when they do, we find their stuff, we have to relate it to their service. And so it's much harder. And that's what we're coming across right now, is that National Guard and Reserve are starting to retire. And there's a lot of them in this county. So, in the end, also preparing this office to be successful in the next 5 years. Because I'm 62. And so, I'm not going to be here much, over 5 more years. So, we need to start preparing this office to be in good shape.
So what are you seeing as far as increase in your caseload?
Well, I mean, caseload is different for every county. Okay, I'll tell you this much. In the state of Texas, it's starting to become there's not a whole lot of one man shows in the VSO world anymore. They usually see people more. So what you find as far as caseload is that it's based on the office. So like I could be Bosque. Does anyone know about Bosque? They don't have one, right? Their judge holds the hat. So who gets their load? We do. We don't go see them, but they do show up at our office. But at the same time, you're only as good as the person doing the job. So we asked how many people are in this county. It's more like 42, by the way. Your count should be more like 42,000 in this county. And the average for veterans is right about 4,000 to 4,200 people that are veterans in this county. And for every person who dies, another one comes in. So also you have to count their spouses, right? A spouse comes in. We don't always, we say veterans, but so let's use $3,800. I mean, 3,800 people, veterans, but that means that there's 3,800 spouses. And then also there's surviving spouses and then children who are going to school. So, I think on the average, I can say that I honestly see 25 people a week, and if they start getting like this, now I don't, I'm up at nighttime doing this stuff too. I can't do this all in the daytime. I can't sit there and go through every page and figure it out. So in any case, when I'm looking at a part-time person, I kind of go by how I was paid. And I know that me and Rachel have talked, but think you can pay a VSO. You don't have to pay the VSO based on, I don't ask for you to pay me based on whatever that thing was, that they did. I don't, and the truth is that if you take that survey and you pay me what that survey was, I'd probably make $20,000 more a year based on that survey. Okay. But in any case, I mean, this is for future. We don't have to do it this year. I just want to get it on the books this year to definitely get into the point where we have another VSO next year too. Okay. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hope I didn't take too much of your time.
No,
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you,
All
Brad.
right, see y'all later. Just think I'd be retiring this year if I stayed in. Oh, I'm not retired for 5 years. So. Sheriff? You don't have much, do you?
Oh, no,
There we go.
it's very short and sweet. I'm gonna make this, try to go as quick as possible. I'm gonna start with some of the smaller budgets. So no particular order.
Where you wanna go first?
I'm gonna go with. Do 911 dispatch. All right. Yeah. No. So on no, it might have been.
We did that for a little bit.
So
Yeah, so the chief worked on this one pretty extensive and we can save that to the end if you prefer. That way he can describe it to you and explain why. Unless you want to do it now. All right, go ahead, chief.
So we looked at the salary study. We considered the previous level of pay for telecommunicators. It appeared that the previous salary study that was conducted here over the last year or two, I think the dispatchers got left out in the cold on the salary increases that were supplied to personnel at the sheriff's office. I think across the board, the salary study recommended a 12% increase per pay level that's currently in dispatch now from the dispatcher or trainee through dispatcher 4. As well as I think a 9% recommended increase for the dispatch management manager position. Considering that big number, 12% to me on a recommended pay increase is a pretty big number. That was pretty telling, I guess, in our eyes, that the dispatchers here were due a somewhat conservative raise. We've had a very difficult time filling dispatch positions, even getting applicants for it, because again, like most places, you can go out to Buc-ee's here and clean toilets for as much or more than a dispatcher gets paid to work a stressful 12-hour shift, manning a console, days on end. The staff wages increase that's requested in there that shows a $120,000 increase overall for the whole division is factoring in the recommended 12% increase of the salary study. It also includes staffing each position or funding each position rather at a level 4 grade. So we don't have to play the continual guessing game each year when it comes to the budget. We can provide due increases for annual salary increase between budget years and not have to worry about going budget. There are a number of reasons for that, but the majority of that is for the recommended increase in salary, as well as funding each position at a level 4 grade. So we know where we stand. We won't even really have to have the conversation at the beginning of each budget year. You gentlemen will know that if I have 10 or 11 positions in the dispatch unit, you know that you're going to fund each one of them in a deputy 4, and we already know what that salary line level is going to be. So we don't have to guess. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 2? Is it 4? You fund them all the same. So we know where we stand each year going forward. And we basically went through and recommended doing the same thing for each division long term. That way it makes it a lot easier on you collectively, and it makes it way easier on the sheriff's office in determining the budget for the upcoming year, as well as having accessible funds for employees for due pay increases that come up between Octobers. And instead of having to guess each time, we do have a couple of tenured dispatchers there that are in our minds long for some pay increases because of how the previous administration's cap policy was written. There's a lot that goes into that and why that looks like such a big number. But going forward, the number wouldn't have to change unless you just chose to change it or, provided another cost of living in later years, whatever the case may be. The part-time wages, we requested an overall decrease of $28,632. The sheriff and I looking at that objectively believe that part-time position was massively overfunded. We don't know why. Of course, the previous sheriff and his chief deputy said last year's budget, I think we're projected to use maybe $5,000 to $7,000 of that money this current budget year with the one part-time employee that we have. We were never really sure why so much money was allocated to that line item. And while we appreciate it, those funds could be much better used elsewhere in the budget. The overtime wages. I know this has been probably an ongoing conversation for a very long time when it comes to dispatch and overtime. We do not have the number of personnel that we need in the dispatch division to work them on an 8 or a 10-hour shift to have them on a flat 40-hour work week schedule. They are not 207K exempt employees, so we are obligated to pay them overtime for any hour that they work over 40 hours each individual week versus a 2-week pay period for law enforcement or jail. So we only have enough personnel to run them on 12-hour shifts. We're typically short-staffed on top of that. So you've got to give, your sick call-ins, people are due vacations, time off, all those things. So we have to have those shifts covered for the sake of the safety and coverage of dispatch for
the county in general for the sake of public safety. So that's why the drastic increase was there. I think last year they had allocated, it was $5,000 for the entire year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we spent 700 bailing them out.
Yeah.
In overtime.
Yeah. The previous.
That wasn't us.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not pointing fingers.
Sorry.
I'm just saying it's historically, yes.
Right. So, and another thing that I kind of wanted to point out with that as well, we're projected to spend a little over $80,000 in overtime this year, and it would not surprise me in the least if we actually do hit that number. I wanted to note that the sheriff and I looked through this, and we cut a ton of spending in this unit specifically to try to cover maybe 90+% of that overtime within the budget itself, rather than having to pull the money from contingency funds so that money could be used elsewhere within the county. For the most part, we've actually been able to do that. We were pretty impressed with it overall, but the problem is, on the back end of that, we kind of had to shortchange some people on training through the year. As you can see from the other line items further down, some of those numbers were, and our ideas, very poorly funded last year. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. There wasn't a lot to do there to make anything happen in that division. Yet 10 or 11 dispatch positions, training is obviously expensive. We've heard all the other officials talk about it as well. Between hotels, per diems, the cost of training courses, registrations, everything else, travel, everything is just so much more expensive than it used to be. But we had cut a number of things from the dispatch division this year to try to help make up for that shortfall, as well as the money that was saved from being shorthanded as well within the same division. So I project that budget will go over anywhere from 1% to 5% by the end of the year, but I think the vast majority of that is going to be covered within itself, also resulting in the commissioners not having to take a huge chunk of money out of contingency to make up that shortfall. I think we did the vast majority of it within its own budget. So sorry, that was just a little caveat to that. Telephones. Telephones are another story altogether. It was originally funded $50,000. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. The Social Security, unemployment, retirement, workers' comp, and health insurance. I was under the understanding that the auditor and/or treasurer worked that in tandem to handle that. That's why that section is left blank. The training and mileage reimbursement, we did go ahead and request to keep it at $4,000 because we've explored some online training opportunities. The sheriff is still working on getting the TCOL training provider licensing back for the sheriff's office so we can start actually having our own training here in Hill County and not have to go farm out training to these other departments and pay for mileage and pay for gas and pay for hotels and all these things. But that is a time-consuming process that is still being worked on now with TCOL, as well as some area law enforcement agencies.
What did you say about telephone increase?
Telephone increase, yes, sir. I'm sorry, that's exactly where I was about to go with this. Let's see, we requested training and mileage remain the same, 10% on bonds and insurance increase per recommendation of the auditor. Contract services, we requested to maintain the same because we have no reason to believe that that's going to be any more or any less than what was needed. In truth, and I hate to keep going on sidebars here, but I need everybody to really understand that coming in with the old budget from the previous sheriff and with absolutely no documentation being left behind by the previous administration, we didn't know what bills the sheriff's office even had until we got blindsided by them in the mail or by email or through the treasurer's office. We had flown blind for basically the last 7 months trying to make sense of everything that goes on over there. We created our own internal shadow budgets, went back and we went through the known bills that we found through previous invoices, but it seemed like every week or every month there was something else we were getting hit with. There was either hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, and it's stuff that money was never allocated for, for this fiscal year that we're currently in.
Shocked.
It's been an absolute beating. In truth, I think that a lot of the stuff that we're requesting through these budgets will repair a lot of those things. But I think even into next fiscal year 2027, I think that's the point where you'll see the sheriff's office really get to the point where they're actually perfecting the budget. This year, we're not throwing darts at the wall, just guessing on this. We took the knowns that we had, plugged them in, and these were the numbers that we came up with, what we actually need going forward. So, anyway, phones is where we're originally going. So originally there was $50,000 allocated for the phones. As of right now, a little over 51 has been spent, close to 52, and it says it's projected to spend 79. That number is actually going to be much higher. We went back and looked at the billing that we get from AT&T alone for all of the cell phones, the hotspots, the credit points for the squad cars, the data usage of each of those units and everything else. And those bills run about $8,000 a month combined. So that's $96,000 a year right there just for AT&T and everything else.
Is there not a way to negotiate an unlimited data package with those guys?
Well, it basically is. That's the thing. There's so many phones, there's so many cradle points. You got to realize we've got, 30 plus patrol units in use that all have a mobile data terminal in them. By the time you put all that together, it adds up to a lot of money. And whatever was negotiated previously, that price that's there, that was already there before Sheriff Barnes even took office. We're just continuing paying the bill that was there. So yeah, that's why there's such a drastic increase requested to basically double that line item, because it was allocated 50 initially, and you're going to need at least 100 to carry it forward just to pay for that bill, as well as the phone bill for dispatch in general, which is another thing that I'll talk about in another section of the budget.
Get you into you.
What do you
Right?
What do you mean specifically?
You're gonna blow by this number before you ever get to October 1.
It's gonna
What
be
you're saying.
It's going to be close. So I pulled all the phone lines, the actual analog original phone lines that are allocated to the sheriff's office, and we're paying roughly $200 a month for all the phone lines that they have down there now. So by the time you factor in that, that's another $2,400 on top of the 96. So you're looking at about $98,000. That's why we requested the 100, just to give it maybe a 3 to 5% buffer, depending on fluctuation of cost or fluctuation of data usage or whatever the case may be. I'm always up for more, but we thought that this was practical starting point to try to figure this out, because again, like I said earlier, without knowing what the previous administration was doing, without the documentations, without the contracts, and just only getting the bills as the months go by, we've been reaching out to a lot of entities asking for current contracts, everything else that goes along with it. Some of them have played ball. Some of them are like pulling teeth to get information out of. We canceled a lot of contracts too, but that's a conversation for another budget, just some wasteful spending that we observed. But figuring out how Hill County does business, what bills come out of what line items, because apparently there are a number of other county entities that kind of attach to the sheriff's office to, and some of the bill may come out of this line item for, say, Commissioner One, and some of it may come out of this line item for county judge. It's hard to keep up with it all when you don't know the detailed inner workings of the place, like as well as the auditor would. So the problem is that the sheriff's office is the entity that actually has to plan this budget for it. So without knowing all those handshake deals or whatever agreements were made over the previous years, we're flying blind. So all we know is we know we need X amount of dollars for, say, phones specifically. This is what we need that we know going forward. So that was the reason of such a drastic increase in requests for the telephones from the dispatch line item.
At that, Tim, the combined AT&T bills, which are FirstNet Mobility, they were supposed to be cheaper. They've gone up to over $1,500 a month in the past year. So I'm trying to get one of my staff to figure out just where that is and what is it, just more lines, or I don't know. I don't know. That's a huge increase.
We're thinking it's the cradle points and the cars. I mean, you can't do without those. I mean, one thing that we did do is look to see if there were anything that we could do away with. And there's really not. I mean, I don't need a hot spot, so I can give mine to somebody else, but I mean, for the most part, if you're trying to cut anything, you would have to cut cell phones. And if you cut cell phones, then you're gonna have to give them a stipend, you know, for and pay for their phone usage for their personal phones. And then there's certain apps that we require to be used in our line of work that we can't force them to put on their personal phone. So it's,
And you have to have like the authentication
Yeah.
apps, and all that. And I did streamline those bills. Shannon and I worked together with Jackson to pull out like receipts and all that. So your phone bill is now just your phone bill. So it should be a lot easier to gauge.
we do have some hotspots over there, that they say commissioners on them, so if you're needing them, come get them.
Yeah, we have a whole box of
They're
them.
brand new.
Thank you.
But it seems like to me that somebody, the AT&T business people would be willing to sit down and negotiate something that large.
And we are not on contract with a month service.
Uh-huh.
And we are not on contract with a month service.
Maybe we ought to think about that.
Yeah. We can have some for it.
Yeah, just a blank contract for the whole shooting match.
When we did it, we had thought of a different company. Jackson actually went out and ran and tested a long T-Mobile. Because they partnered with Starlink. Still have that spots, did you not?
So yeah, they didn't have the Starlink availability yet, but the T-Mobile service itself is what something really grabs for the. That's the hard part, is there's other companies out there, but each company.
Don't have the coverage.
Has a failing in coverage somewhere. AT&T's kind of the one that touches them most, and even it has outages, and especially if you live. Towards my house, from Judge's house, you don't have a cell phone booster in your house. Even AT&T does work, so. And AT&T is unless there's a contract option. Like we pay the same amount as any other jurisdiction that has, other county government that has personally. It's all in the data, it's a set price. There's no way around it, unless there's a contract option.
One question.
We'll look into that.
Additionally, after phones, you've got the repairs line item. We had requested an increase of $4,500. Originally, there was $500 allocated to the repairs line item of the dispatch division. $500 won't cover anything at all.
It's anything with $500.
Right, we had 10 CPU systems that had to be purchased this year to the tune of 3 of them. How much were they again?
6,000.
Yeah, it was like $5,000-$6,000.
They're about $2,000 a piece, and this was a critical piece of equipment that the sheriff's office absolutely had to have for emergency communications. We needed 3 of them. So that was $6,000 in itself right there. Hopefully, we don't have to deal with that same issue going forward. But we also thought an increase from $500 to $5,000 wasn't unreasonable, just because everything that's in that room, in that dispatch room, is expensive. I don't care what it is. If it's something as simple as a monitor, a hard drive, whatever, it's going to be costly. So that's the reason on that one. Miscellaneous line item, we requested to remain the same, and I believe that was it for the
The bonds and insurance.
dispatch side.
1 of 10.
Yes. Included in my submission that I sent to you, Judge, was the updated pay scale as well for dispatch, jail, and sworn. That encompasses all the divisions of the sheriff's office as well, just to kind of get an idea of the salaries of what they would look like. And there's also a copy of the current pay scale in there as well, so you can see what the cost, what the percentage increase would be compared to what it is now, as far as what it could be. You want to continue on? Okay. Let's go with the animal control and.
So, animal control. Not a lot, not too drastic here on this one. It's just one employee. So we, staff wages request, $6,000 increase. That's COLA with 83 hour factored in here, not the 80 hour. We did take that from 86 hours to 83. Feel like that's more efficient. It'll supply us with a little bit more extra funds as well to use somewhere else. Longevity,
Just a sec, sir. I want to speak to that real quick because it's going to flow through all your sworn personnel
Yes.
and your jail. Is last year due to the nature of prior administration. It was a great idea. Judge and treasurer came up with budgeting 86 hours for those sworn personnel to try to hedge their bets against overtime just going through the roof. Once the new sheriff took over, it was the tool that helped them combat that overtime. And that's why you're seeing such a reduction in overtime. Now that they've got their feet under them, they feel comfortable with dropping that from 86 budgeted hours to 83 budgeted hours. And what that does for us is it gives us those 3 hours, which when you start doing the math, every month is a lot of money. That puts that back into the general fund for us so we can fund some of these other things. It's just one of the small tools that we're trying to use to the side to try to stretch our budget just a little bit further. They feel comfortable that those 3 hours are sufficient to still, avoid the overtime issue that we've had in the past. So anyway, I wanted to address that.
We also took 700,000 out of reserve and gave to the sheriff department to help them out, get them started.
That was to cover the expense for last time, yes.
Yes.
So, yeah. We were cleaning up, or you guys were cleaning up, yes, sir. So.
We will not let it get to that point ever again. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Because we're not giving you another $700,000.
Well, you never gave it to me, so it's okay. I won't ever ask for that much when it comes to not being able to make a
I know
budget.
wages are a thing, but when Evergreen did their evaluation, if I'm not mistaken, the sheriff department got anywhere from 9 to 19% increase.
Only certain divisions.
Certain divisions, yeah. I had a maintenance man that didn't get anything.
Mhm.
I mean.
Yeah, it was much like the salary survey that we have now, is every one of them is a completely different, every position is completely different. The salary survey, people have rhyme or reason to that. Now, whether I understand why it's that way, it may not be true, but each position was treated completely.
And no other county department is affected as the sheriff's office, because what happens is they send somebody to the academy. They get them trained up for a year or two, and then they leave for more money. We had to do something because we couldn't keep. And it's still, and you see other agencies in other counties still doing this, still trying to get competitive when you have a city that pays you $100,000 coming in the door. I mean, who wants to stay unless you're just from here? You know what I mean? This is the reason why I ran. This is the reason why he came with me and several others, is that we're from here and we want to make a difference. And unfortunately, with 93 employees and different divisions and different budgets, it costs money. And I know that. And if you get the complaints that I get, and I'm sure y'all get about the roads, that I get about providing service for, why aren't you doing anything about these drug dealers? Why aren't you doing anything about the speeders? Why aren't you doing anything about this? And I'm like, we are doing whatever we can do with the resources that we had.
What you got to work with.
Yeah, what we have to work with. You're right. When you start to work on a dope area, the high dope area, the person that does it starts to work on it, gets pulled away to go work on something else because there's just not the staff in place.
Well,
and we're growing so big.
Yeah, that t-shirt.
We don't even take account the number of RV parks in population. That's crazy. And the number of calls that we take at those is out the roof.
The interesting thing is that if you look at our budget, and the sheriff generally gets blamed for taking a very large chunk of it, but if we look at it in reality as to the justice system itself and what it takes up with the budget. Okay, so you're not just talking about law enforcement, we're talking about courts, clerks, probation, juvenile probation. When you start talking about the justice system and what the county government pays for that, that's the largest percent of the budget. Roads, auditor, treasurer, those are the little ones. All of our attorneys are considered justice system, district court, so that is the biggest chunk of our government.
And a lot of people don't know that.
No, they don't.
They don't see it.
Most people.
They
So
don't
it
have
really,
no idea what.
if you're looking at it, criminal activity, crime, that is what takes the majority.
Yeah, and the inmates, food,
It's a mess.
you're required to feed them, this many calories a day. It's just, you understand where it gets crazy. And we explored other options, and I'll get into that later on, but we felt like those other options weren't going to be good for the county, and we will continue to do what we do and manage our budget at a higher rate than what was done in the previous, and feel that we can save the county several $100,000 basically in just the jail side. So and y'all all know as well as I do, you have employees, and I don't care how many you have and how many I have, doesn't mean anything other than we get paid a little bit more out of the budget because there's more employees. They all do an important job. I get it. And when somebody says, why aren't you doing anything with my roads? It's because you're out of money. I get it. Same thing that we've got going on, right? So we're trying to make it right. We're trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer money. I will go ahead and throw this out there. The FCC ruling just went into effect July 1st, saying that we can get 40% of gross revenue on inmate phone calls now. We were getting 0. So an amended contract will come before the court at the next court date. And I have elected to give all those funds to the general fund. So don't have to. I could have kept that and used it for whatever I felt needed for inmates' security and safety. But also have the option to give it to the general fund, and that's the way the contract will be drawn up. So you'll get a pretty steady income of it may not be huge, but $4,000 or $5,000 on average, I would say, a month. Depending on inmate population. And right now we're pretty steady. So that'll come to the general fund. You can come see and use it with how you see fit. So the repair item here on animal control, Rick works hard. He's all over this county on the strays. We have a bull impounded right now. So his vehicle repair line item was underfunded, we found. So he went over on that. We're just asking it to be increased by $2,000. There was not enough in there to do his vehicle upfitting from the last budget. So that's the reason that it went over. The fuel, we asked an increase of $1,000. He drives a lot, so he uses a lot more fuel, and he does, haul that trailer around. Speaking of the trailer, that's going to need a new floor soon, so that's why we asked for that repair line item to go up, $2,000. Bonds and insurance is the standard 10% increases. We were advised by the auditor, so it'd go up to an estimated $100. Any questions on that one? You got something, Chief? Any questions on
No.
that?
Read it.
I'm gonna go to, let's just do the school resource officer, guys. It's pretty simple. The school resource officer contract has been canceled at the request of Itasca Independent School District. I did include a letter that was certified mailed to our office. It's just saying they're going to go in a different direction. They actually had our old SRO that we had in that school. They're going to try to make their own police department with him. So he no longer works for us. So he's going to try to do his own thing up there. I wish him well. So that basically decreases the line item there by $109,744. Any questions on that?
No. That's better than the federal fund. You can get there.
Let's do the health and safety. We'll put that on there.
What?
Health and safety, that is our OSSF staff wages there. He's due a step increase plus COLA factored in here. And that's at 83 hours. So his step increase and his COLA was at 83 hours is an increase of $8,000. His training was underfunded. We request that go up $1,000. The repair line item, we asked for an increase of $1,000. It wasn't enough for tires alone on his vehicle, what we had prior to.
Yeah, the previous line item on that was for $500 for the entire year. I mean, that would barely cover oil changes and nails and tires as he gets them running off road, so.
His fuel, he is one of the ones that drives a lot, so we did ask for an increase of $500 on that. We just don't really know what the fuel market's gonna go. Nobody does. So. His longevity pay, as required by county policy, increase of $75, and of course, the standard 10% for the bonds and insurance increase by $100.
Switching, sure.
Yes, sir.
Ask you to pause for just a
I
second.
sure can.
District judge has got some prior negative, was that?
No problem. Go ahead.
Jump in, your audio financial.
Gentlemen, you have, again, I'm Justin Lewis, in case none of you have ever met me. You know, I'm so glad to be on this side of the podium.
We never met you.
Yeah, you could, you probably. You've got my budget, it's no major changes from last year. I put a 3% COLA in there for employees because I wasn't certain what we're doing. We're looking at inflation in the last 12 months of 2.7%, according to the Federal Labor Bureau standard statistics. We did not come up to inflation during last year's increase in COLA, so that's the reason the increase in that. That's my main budget. Again, no major changes there. The other budget that I seem to have a pretty big impact on, and that's not news, is the jury fund. The jury fund is an antiquated notion from the state of Texas that the fines paid for filing of certain cases are going to fund the court system, and that's just ridiculously inept at this point on the state's part. The fact of the matter is, every year for the last 18 years, this court has had to put money from the general fund transferred into the jury fund. Let me kind of explain what comes out of there. Over the last several decade plus, we've attempted to peel back the layers of the onion of the jury funds. At one time, they paid for court reporters out of there. They paid for this, they paid for that. We've taken those things out. The majority of the jury fund nowadays pays for court-appointed attorneys. As everybody here is well aware, Senate Bill 6, Senate Bill 8, Constitution of the United States, those things all require attorneys in certain circumstances, and that is a very large part of our bill. One of the things that you will see is that number tends to go up when jail population goes up. You have people that sit in jail for a good amount of time. Right now, last time I did the numbers on it, it's somewhere between $94 and $97 a day what it costs to house an inmate in Hill County. The average felony matter is somewhere between $750 and $800 for the court-appointed attorney. So after about 10 days in jail, you can see real quickly how it becomes financially reasonable for the taxpayer to afford an attorney of somebody they cannot afford one. Plus, there's a whole raft of agency rules that go along with it that are necessary. So I know that comes up in topic. It did come up in topic for me many times. The jury fund is not something anybody likes to see as this funnel where we pull money. But unfortunately, it is a necessity and it is required. So, questions, gentlemen? Any questions of my requests at all? Okay, cool. Good to see you guys. If you think of something, please let me know. Pleasure to see everybody, and I'll make my exit stage left.
Tell him about he's gonna be presented with an award today.
Yeah, okay. So I, for many, many years, to save the taxpayer money, I got myself appointed to the County Judges Education Committee for the state of Texas. And what that did is that appointment, they paid for my education, my lodging, my travel, those things, because I participated in and taught classes on everything from recusals and disqualifications to basic probate guardianship alternatives, things along those lines. So instead of spending, $3,500 a year on education that we're required to have by law, by the way, the good judge is required to have X number of hours, 32 his first year, and then 16 thereafter. I was able to get that taken care of due to the abrupt nature of the governor's appointment upstairs. They are meeting today in Waco, and I have been requested to come down there for a ceremony for a presentation to me. So there's that. And the other nature too, I guess I should, I've not made it public knowledge yet, but now it's official, I guess I can. The regional presiding judge, our judicial district runs from Hill County down to Guadalupe County, where I was born and raised. And so that's a pretty big district, third district. Our presiding judge is in Comal County. And so technically he's kind of my boss. That being said, he suggested as new to the bench that I apply to George Mason School of Law, Economics and Judicial Institute. He said, you're going to apply a couple of times and get turned down, but we think this would be a good class for you. Well, I didn't get turned down. So it was quite the honor. And I got appointed to the Economics and Judicial Institute. I'm getting the words wrong here thinking about it. Anyway, so that'll be upcoming again. There will be no cost to the local taxpayer whatsoever. This is picked up by the George Mason School of Law. The idea is to look at the judiciary from an economic standpoint and apply those principles. So basically, it's like going back to law school for a little bit. But anyway, those are the big things we're doing. Again, trying to relieve the amount of strain that we put on the budget upstairs, but finding ways to get our education paid for outside of the normal channel, which would be the general fund.
Congratulations.
I think so.
It's a big deal.
Well, it's been interesting, and it's been a learning curve, no doubt about it. But I've enjoyed the people I'm working with, and frankly, it's fun. It's learning something new is always a challenge. So I've greatly enjoyed this change.
But you don't miss this.
Not at all. Not one time out of 25. No. So yeah, sorry about that, buddy. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, Sheriff. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate you. If you guys need anything further, I'm just up there. All right, thank you.
Judge.
Thank you, Murray. Sheriff, thanks for having. Well, how do you want to do this, Sheriff? Who's got? I'm up on lunch and I've got hungry commissioners looking at me. Want us to? Can we hit a smaller department and then come back? 2 smaller departments.
Whatever you'd like, Judge.
We've got 2 smaller ones that we can discuss pretty quickly. The 2 larger ones are the sheriff's and jail, which will take probably some time.
Right. Let's do the 2 small ones.
Let's go ahead and talk about 235 investigative fund. That's chapter 59. There's no foreseeable spending of this budget right now as we speak.
Hold on. Special budget.
235 investigative fund, chapter 59. That is it's the asset forfeiture fund.
Law enforcement.
Yes, sir. It's just a small one. That's why we can.
So it should be very fast. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so on this, looks like $40,800 there in the current budget. We don't foresee spending any of this money at the time. If something major comes up, then we may have to pull out of that, but right now we're gonna leave it sitting the way it is. Savings account, I guess you'd say. Any questions on that?
No.
And then we're gonna do, a courthouse security, Bellis. So on this one, with the COLA and the 83 hours factored in for pay increases, that would increase the Bellis here at $48,000 total. County longevity, which is required by policy, $600 increase. And repairs, we ask an increase of $500. On the fuel, we did decrease it by $2,000. The take-home car for the Bellis has been done away with, except for the courthouse supervisor, and he's on call, so he gets to take it home. Uniforms, we did ask for an increase of $1,000. It's really to outfit one deputy in their courthouse. We went to a Class A uniform, which is what I have on when we're in the courthouse or we're at special events.
I will say that there's been lots of compliments.
Yeah, I think
they just look more professional than the past.
I appreciate that. The security equipment line item, we did decrease it by $4,500. This court, as well as grants, have been very giving to us and allowing us to get that equipment to where we need it to be. So we do appreciate that, and that's the reason for the decrease for next year on that. Bonds and insurance is the standard 10% to go up to $600. So go ahead.
I just want to say real quickly that the number on the staff wages portion is on the same line as everything else that encompasses funding every deputy at the courthouse, any deputy for position, as well as providing due pay increases between budget years and the 83-hour factor. That's why that number looks so large for that small division. So if that makes sense. Any questions on that one?
No, sir.
So you'll have that approved, but that won't necessarily be what's paid out.
On every division.
So in theory, what would happen is they would all be budgeted as 54.
Yep.
But they may have a deputy 3, a deputy 2, a deputy 1. Then at the end of that fiscal year, those funds would obviously go back to the reserve, go back to general fund because they weren't actually spent. The reason for budgeting it that way, correct me if I'm wrong, your theory is I have a deputy 2 and in, April, they're gonna be eligible by policy to be a deputy 3. Well, instead of coming back to the court and saying, I need a budget amendment because of this, he's already budgeted for deputy 4.
That's assuming the step system.
I imagine when
Which
we
will-
talk about the sworn
Yes,
side,
we
they're
get
gonna
into-
present.
We'll get into good detail on that and why we feel that is the best way to go.
But I feel like that'd go through all the way through lunch if we started with that.
Oh, yes, it will.
Well, is that,
December. And
Right.
then that it's qualified for a lateral entry of 4, it was only budgeted at a 1, we can't hire that person.
Right, yeah. And there, that is a big incentive in law enforcement right now is lateral entry. If I've been in law enforcement for this period of time, I've got this much experience.
Oh, yes.
I don't want to start at the top. And so it is an attractive, hiring tool.
And I think that I don't want to speak for you, but I'm assuming that you as taxpayers and citizens in this county as well, when you request law enforcement service, that you get the best, most qualified servant that responds to your issue that you're dealing with that day, not just somebody to fill a spot. And that's what we're doing at our office now. We've had applicants that we had to turn away. I mean, and it just is what it is. We have a standard and we're gonna hire the best possible qualified individual for that spot. And it's like the treasurer said, if they are experienced and deserve to have that lateral entry, then I want to be able to have that money there to incentivize them to come to work here at our agency.
that step policy, something that you're gonna come back and present
Yes, sir.
to the court?
Yes, sir. When we go into the law enforcement is part of
We'll
it.
talk about it today.
But that's not something that we will.
We won't be able to take action until next week to adopt that, but they're gonna introduce that.
So that is our smaller budgets and I will do the larger ones after lunch. Tell us what time you need us back here,
I have
Judge.
a question.
Yes, sir.
Down in Covington Street,
Yes, sir.
and we're adding some jobs down there. Are we gonna need the same X-ray stuff we have here down there? Because you've got people that are not the most reputable coming in.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And that was a last second, judge said, move it here type thing. And that's how we had to respond to that. So we had handheld and went old school looking bags and walked through, but so we were able to move one of the portable, metal detectors. But as far as X-ray, I did not budget for that in our budget. I don't know how many trials we're gonna hold down there.
Oh, you have the, once a month, right? You have the big ad.
Well, we do, but those usually aren't large issues, not that I've heard anyway. Your AG court, have you had any huge issues out of there? Do you feel like working that you need that X-ray machine over there?
We're certainly willing to entertain it.
We are.
Because they cost a lot of money. They cost a ton of money to maintain, and to warranty them costs even more. Apparently the one that was purchased here, I guess there was no warranty purchased on that one, so the warranty that they offered to us to cover it going forward, as well as having to cover what in the past is
more than a machine.
A lot of money. It's a lot of money. So with the fact that we have the wands over there, with fewer people frequenting that building, in our minds anyway, and as far as the much less court proceedings actually taking place over there, we thought the wands would actually suffice for now.
And we do have access to Ginger Tons. That's what we ended up doing, is
Yes.
moving one from Ginger Tons.
Right.
Or down, just for the couple days, and then it got moved back up.
Yes.
And you saw the number of folks that we had over there. I mean, I was over there, some lieutenants and chiefs showed up. I mean, we had plenty of people in that courtroom, and if he was gonna jump, he was not gonna jump very far. So, RGL did purchase some great,
security devices, they're bracelets, that you put on the prisoner, that are high risk for, causing an issue. And, they deliver a pretty good, jolt, I would say, and they do not want that more than once, so.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a recess until 1.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.